Have you ever wondered how tiny little startups consistently outperform large, well-funded companies, or how some of them have these fanatical, obsessed customers who are literally fight people on the internet about how awesome their product is? If you think you need a massive team and expensive technology to create true customer obsession, I have good news for you. The secret is not something you can buy. It's in the culture that you build around customer success, because CS coupled with your product is literally the foundation of your entire business. So in this video, I'm going to walk through what I think are the 5 required behaviors of a world-class customer success manager. And I will tell you this, if you share this video with your CS leader and implement what I'm about to teach you, your churn will go down, your customers will be happier, and you will start to unlock the business you've always dreamed of. When I started my first company, UpLaunch, I could barely tell you what customer success even was. All I knew is that I had a problem that my customers were interested in solving, they were willing to pay for the solution, and I hated failure, so I was going to figure out how to solve it for them. But in hindsight, that was a huge advantage because I didn't waste brain cells worrying about what would scale and what wouldn't, or what levels of CS map to our annual contract value, or how my support team should be structured, any of that stuff. I just anchored on one core belief. The customer wants their problem solved. Solve it. And it was all hands on deck in order to do that. Then as we scaled, CS turned into a real department, but that mentality was always the same right through the day that we sold the company. When it was all said and done, our average first response time for tickets was less than 4 minutes, our average satisfaction score on support cases was 96%, and we personally onboarded every customer one-on-one, resulting in a fast time to value, low single-digit churn, and a culture that was incredibly rewarding to be a part of. It all came down to 2 things, the systems that we built and the behaviors that we encouraged, and I'm going to teach you about both of them for free. Make sure you watch this video all the way to the end because each step builds on the one before it. And when you do this right, it's not just about retention, it's actually about growing your revenue. The foundational behavior for all of this is you have to manage to your customer health index. And I'm going to explain what that is because it's probably the single most important rhythm in your CS toolbox. Think of a customer health index like a one-page report card that provides a health check for your customers, kind of like going to the doctor. The customer health index is one number. It's a composite average of how you score the engagement and the satisfaction of each customer in your company. Give you some examples. Are they logging in? Are they hitting their key value metrics? Did they give you a good NPS score the last time you asked them? Do they have team members who are signing up? Once you know the key behaviors that are important to you, the next step is you want to assign weights to each one to make sure that they're being prioritized appropriately. For instance, if someone says that they'd recommend your product to others, but they haven't logged in for 5 months and they haven't gotten any value from the software, they're still at risk. And so you've got to build your customer health score appropriately. By boiling all of this stuff down to one number, this is the key. You can stack rank all of your customers. And I prefer a traffic light system, so you just break down your whole customer base into greens, yellows, and reds. So how does this impact the behavior of a CS manager? Every single day, the best CSMs will pick a handful of red and yellow customers to re-engage. Calls, emails, text messages, social media, the whole 9 yards. The goal is to pull them back into the business, to re-enroll them in what they were trying to accomplish in the first place and make sure they're getting the value that they deserve. A world-class CS person knows their reds and yellows. They have a track record of taking those reds and yellows and turning them into greens. It's always easy to talk about your happy customers, but the best CSMs in the world know how to create happy customers, and it all starts with managing to the customer health index. A world-class customer success manager has to know the product inside and out. They should be the ultimate expert, the go-to person that a customer can rely on to get their questions answered. And I'm not just talking about knowing the features, I'm talking about knowing the use cases, the ways that different customers use the product to solve their specific problem, like all the little details, the best practices, the pitfalls that need to be avoided. The big idea here, guys, is it's not really about learning a product. The best CSMs are learning a whole industry. Like my first company served gym owners, and I was super nervous when I hired my first CSM who had not worked in a gym before. But by the time they'd been with us for 3 months, not only did they know the product, but they knew the 4 different business models we supported, the most common ways that gyms onboarded new members, and a whole lot of other industry knowledge. But that's just a story. Like the real question is, how do you do it? It comes from the founder. The best CSMs will watch the way that the founder, who usually has deep industry knowledge, watch the way they coach their customers. Then they build playbooks around those conversations and get schooled up in how to deliver the same message. The way to think about this is just imagine the pure magic that would happen if the CEO of the company was sitting at a coffee shop over a laptop with a customer, helping them use the product. What would be said in that conversation? That's the experience that you're trying to create, and you need to be able to do it at scale. Proactively reaching out to your customers is the way that the best companies in the world do business, because honestly, waiting for them to bring you all their problems isn't just bad business, it's also kind of lazy. If you've got the health index and you're already doing outreach based on usage patterns, that's a great first step, but over time, you're going to be able to go even deeper. For instance, you can work with your engineers to set up bug tracking infrastructure that'll tell you exactly which customer encountered an error. Most customers who encounter a bug aren't actually going to reach out to you. They're just going to move on. And you will literally melt minds if you proactively reach out to your customers and just say, hey, saw you had a bug. I'm sorry about that. Here's what happened, and it's all fixed now. It's also critically important to reach out on positive milestones, not just when things go badly. For instance, if your software gets people leads for their businesses, you should drop them a note when they get their first 50 or 100 leads. Like, give them some recognition, give them some love. And at the end of the day, people just want to be seen, heard, and understood. And the positive recognition not only accomplishes that, but it also closes what I call the ROI loop, which means you're proactively showing the customer that they're getting a positive return on investment by reinforcing the wins. I want to just talk about this ROI loop concept for a minute because it's crazy important. This is the question to ask yourself. If your customer is doing everything right and getting massive value from your software, do they know it? Are you showing them? For your customers, perception is reality, and even if you're doing a great job delivering value, they might not see it or recognize it, and it's a CSM's job to close that gap. Proactive outreach gives you a way to do this without chewing up time on the product roadmap. At a minimum, you should be able to quickly scan over an account manually, see the value you've delivered, and use that information in a proactive customer conversation to make sure that they know that they're winning, and then you can ask how else you can help them. A top-notch CSM does not just manage renewals, they drive expansion, and there's a huge difference between the two. Seeding the upgrade conversation is a huge part of this role. Looking for customers that are hitting usage limits, adding lots of team members, adopting new features quickly. All of these things are signs of a super engaged customer that's likely to want to do more with you. And your first job here is to make sure that you have a pricing model that supports expansion. Remember, one of the coolest things about SaaS is that if you structure your pricing right, the majority of your opportunity lives after you make the sale, and your CS team should be on the front lines of capturing that value. So an upgrade should be positioned as the next step in the growth journey. And if the CSM's doing their job properly, they'll already be viewed as the guide along that journey for the customer. Every one of these steps in this video builds on the one before it. So if you're monitoring the usage data using your customer health index, you're already the trusted expert for the product and the industry. You're proactively reaching out to create a relationship built on trust and recognition. If you're doing all of those things, the upgrade conversation's not going to feel weird and it's not going to be salesy. It's just going to be a welcomed, natural, easy dialogue about where you guys go next together. Being the voice of the customer is critical for any CSM worth their weight. It should literally be a core value for these people. The CS team is the bridge between the customers and the business, and they should advocate hard for what the customers are saying that they need. So the best CSMs that I've ever worked with create and maintain their own backlog, like an actual list of customer requests, just like a product manager. And it's got everything in there that's causing a pain in a customer's world. Why is this important though? I'll tell you. In the early days, the founder is usually also the head of product and also the head of CS, so the feedback loop is pretty much instant. But over time, as the company grows, people have a tendency to get in a silo in their individual jobs. Like maybe the person who's in charge of the roadmap isn't talking to customers as often, or there's something that feels unimportant from a product standpoint that's annoying the majority of your customers. And the thing is that these issues are not always obvious. So by ensuring that your CS team has explicit permission to just ruthlessly advocate for the customer, regardless of anything, like regardless of product strategy or engineering, roadmap capacity, or any other constraints, you at least know what are you saying yes to and what are you saying no to when you make product decisions and the impact that it might have on your customer satisfaction. The way that I put this in practice at scale is a monthly voice of the customer meeting where the CS team comes through and they actually own the meeting. They run through the backlog of issues and they explain the top 5 most important problems that are negatively impacting the customer experience. And then on the product side, we take that input and work on prioritizing them into the overall roadmap. All right. So if you're anything like I was, you're probably ready to go build some systems and love on some customers. But I want to take a second and just review these 5 behaviors to make sure we're all on the same page. To be a world-class customer success manager, here are the top 5. Number 1, you've got to manage to the customer health index, making sure you can objectively prioritize the customers who need you the most. It's the foundation for everything else we've talked about in this video. Number 2, know the product and the industry inside and out. If your customer knows that they can get legitimate expertise from you just because they're your customer, it's a type of relationship that you cannot build just by answering support tickets. Number 3, lean hard into proactive outreach, because you can't just react to inbound requests and expect your customers to win. You got to be reaching out to them on your own for good things and for bad so that they know that you're actually invested in their success. Number 4, seed the upgrade conversations, because you're not just managing renewals. The greatest CSMs are driving expansion and showing the people the ROI that they're getting from your software. They're closing the ROI loop month after month after month. Number 5, last but not least, be the voice of the customer. You've got to be their advocate inside the building, because the CS team has a viewpoint that nobody else has. It's their job to be vocal and their job to close the loop with customers when you actually build the things that they need. For the founders out there watching this, when you install this culture in your team and you staff it up with people who are capable of walking the walk, your customers will win, your revenue will grow, your company is going to become untouchable. It is a crazy unfair advantage. And now that you know the behaviors that you want your team to have, the next step is measuring them so you know if they're actually getting done and whether or not they're making a real impact. The best way to do this is with my precision scorecard template, which I've used in every company I've ever run, including SaaS Academy. You can snag it for free at mattverlack.com/scorecard, steal it, implement it, and you'll never have to worry about whether you're tracking the right data or not ever again.